So first thing first, guys, how are you?
Very good. Thanks.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Well, before we talk about the new record, I'd like to go back quickly to where you stand. How do you look back at that record after making the new one?
That was the first record we made with Michael Ilbert, the Swedish producer, and we recorded it in Norway on a little island, and we did it over 3 weeks, and it was a really, for us, it was a moment where we were kind of coming back together again, and then we were working with a new producer, and it's like figuring things out. The record's really great, but then we worked on this album with the same producer, and we had 9 weeks instead of 3 weeks, so we had more time, and he knew how we work, and we knew how he worked, and but it was still, I think that last record was it was 3 weeks that I'll never forget.
It was a brilliant experience. With the place that we recorded it was called Giske, out in the far kind of coast of Norway, and it's a beautiful spot, really isolated. It's a tiny little kind of studio out there on an island, and it was really nice to have that kind of intensive 3-week period where you just go, you don't waste a day, you're just like in recording all the songs, and we kind of got it all done. And then we went in to do B-sides at Hansa Studios in Berlin, and that little session, which was only about 4 days or something, went so well that we ended up using a couple of those songs on the album. They kind of went onto the record, and we thought, next record we should come here and do the whole thing in Hansa, because Michael, as Fran said, has his room there, and he knows all its little secrets and quirks and how everything works, and so it really was. It was almost like all the ingredients were falling into place over that record to make this record. Do you know what I mean?
And well, but you mentioned the time that you had. Last time around it was 3 weeks, now 9 weeks. Is it a good thing to have more time in that sense?
So much better.
Yeah, okay. I think so. It's more about, it's not about the amount of time you spend in the studio. It's about being able to do 3 weeks in the studio and then go away for a couple of months and kind of write more stuff, cogitate on what you've done, listen to what's kind of working, what isn't working, and then that kind of informs how you kind of write. It's similar to the way that we did The Man Who, in fact. The Man Who was done in that kind of way, where it was a chunk of recording, then go away and get another batch of songs together, and then go in and record those ones. And it's a really nice way to do it, because you have this luxury of time to just think about what you're doing.
What was the first track that you started working on?
The first track on this record, what was the first track we recorded?
No idea.
Can't remember.
Because you said, do you write them in a sense and then finish one song, or do you work on all the songs at the same time?
We get the songs up to a certain point, and then, I mean, it varies, but in this record we would kind of get the songs up to a certain point and go, okay, we'll move on to the next one, and then, and maybe even in the next session we'd go back to and people would have had ideas of what was needed. So you go, okay, we'll go back to that one and we'll put like an opera singer on this one, or whatever. So it was it's a nice way to do it.
It's like having canvases set up. You do a bit of that one. You start them all going, and then then you do your final session. So you do your first 2 sessions. The first session was in November 2014. The second was in February 2015. And then once you've done those 2, the last one is the one where you tie everything up and make it all. It was the perfect amount of time. So it was done over between November and April, but 3 weeks dotted, 3-week sessions. And it was so much fun. And then we finished in April, and then it's a whole year it took to bring the record out, because we wanted to maybe bring it out in October, and then we thought, God, it's going to be a nightmare, because so you finish in April, then you mix it in June or July, then you bring it to a record company, and then you're trying to find who you want to put it out with, and then by the time we found who we wanted to do that with, it was just going to be a crazy rush to get it out in October. So we thought, well, we shouldn't really rush, because we don't really need to. So we spent that time making a movie that goes with the album, and doing all the artwork and preparing the live shows and making it as much. I think it's the most sort of full piece of work we've done ever. I think it's the best shape that we've been in our heads. And
well, how come?
How come? I've no idea. I think maybe because if you hang around long enough, the hand comes around again to this same weird place. Like 20 years ago, we were moving to London,
Sure.
and there was a very similar feeling of confidence, and we had a good set of songs. And then you give this confidence to the record industry. They take it away from you, and they use it and they do the thing. And this time around, we have all this confidence again, but we've kept it within the band, and it's a much better feeling, rather than it dissipating.
Well, you mentioned the word time earlier. Was it important then, because you mentioned that the industry kind of takes that confidence away from you in a sense? Was it important for the band to have that time off, those couple of years of
We were just being dads, and we needed a break, and we were afforded that break by the success of The Man Who and the Invisible Band and the 12 Memories and all the other records. So we sort of earned the luxury to be fathers and be with our kids. And coming now, I think maybe as well, the kids are all like 10, 8, 10, and they're set. We've had the time, we've done the best you can, and then you sort of set the kids off, they're in school, and we've had more time to concentrate again back on the band fully, whereas before, in the past 10 years, it was more on our kids. We were still a band, but if you look at the output of the band, it dipped. And it dipped because if you looked at the chart of fatherhood, it went like this.
Okay.
So
But in that sense then, in being away for a while and then coming back, and you mentioned your views of the music industry, did a lot change in that respect for you?
nothing's changed.
Not really. I mean, the way that people kind of get a hold of music kind of has always been changing. That's just how technology works. But we kind of never really pay that much attention to what the industry does.
Sure.
We just kind of have our own thing. We focus on that, because if you try and second guess what the industry is going to respond to, or what the music world's going to get into, it's pointless. So you just have to kind of work on your thing, concentrate on that, and kind of turn your back, almost ignore the fact that while you're making it, you kind of ignore the fact that there's an industry out there almost. It's just like being at art school or something, you're just making stuff for the fun of it.